Right.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the planning meeting of this day, the 16th of March. Welcome, councillors, and welcome officer. Well, we have only one officer this evening because Jodie Rhymes, our planning officer, is on annual leave this week. Okay, so let's get started. Now, Mr. Moggridge, Mr. Crook and Mr. Lincoln, I'd be very grateful if you could switch off your cameras until public participation, which is item 4. Thank you.
I'm not sure how to do that.
Just in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a sign of a video camera.
And the left-hand
Bottom left-hand corner. Well,
Top,
yeah, if you just swipe your cursor over it.
It's got an iPad, Michelle. It's at the top.
Oh, it's an iPad, is it?
In the corner. Press it, and then it says stop video.
Switch to gallery view.
Yeah, no, keep pressing it.
Yeah.
It says where it says mute, and next to mute is stop.
There's a
video.
camera up there. Shall I touch that?
That's it. That's the one.
Okay.
Press that. Yeah.
No, he's just touched the camera.
Have I done it?
Surely that's okay.
That's okay. Let's let it go. Okay. So let's go on to the first part of the agenda, which is item number 1. Apologies for absence.
Yeah, apologies from Ian Clark. He's a little bit unwell and I'm substituting for him.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. We wish him well.
And
yes, Councillor Crook.
Rob Romans is a little bit late, so
he's here.
Right there.
He's turned up now. That's okay.
Okay, thank you, councillors. And next is number 2, declarations of interest. Are there any? I see none. So let's move on to the next item, which is number 3, minutes. Minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of February. Do I have a proposal for acceptance? Councillor Gavishak, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Hamilton. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Now, item number 4 is our public participation section. And first on my list is Mr. Mike Moggridge, please.
Get my camera back.
Yes, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Can you see me?
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Moggridge. If you'd just like to just state quickly which item you're speaking to, which application you're speaking about, and then you've got 2 to 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
I'm speaking about the application at 73 Blandy Road.
Thank you.
Is that sufficient?
Yes, whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today regarding my concerns over the application at number 73 Blandy Road. My objections are as follows. The 2 new windows in the extended dormer are excessive and are a gross invasion of our privacy, as they will directly overlook our garden and patio. Can I ask you to look at the photograph I have submitted, which shows not only how overlooking the extension is, but also how out of keeping the dormer extension is with the other adjacent and carefully planned housing. You will also be aware that the proposed dormer extension could create a precedent for other extensions in the future. The same privacy issue which we have also applies to the Juliet balcony. Having 2 doors allowing people to look out onto our garden is completely unacceptable and unnecessary. Then, from a public health point of view, the proposed flue adjacent to our garden is lower than all the originally built flues in the road, which are at the highest top of the roof of each of the houses. My very real concern is that the smoke or fumes and consequent pollution will invariably blow into our garden. I submit that the plan is out of character with the surrounding area. The proposed car parking onto the road with a drop down the length of the pavement is completely nonsense. Including the garage, this gives parking facilities directly onto the road for 5 or more cars, which will resemble a bed and breakfast establishment more than a family home. We were advised yesterday by the owner that the dismantling of the garage will start tomorrow, and before the approval has actually been passed, and that may be her right, but it does give us a lot of concern. I would just like to say finally, having outlined those points, that myself and my wife are in our 80s. We've spent 36 contented years in Lakins Road, getting on with our neighbours, and that contentment will be dramatically impaired unless we have your support and in the reconstruction of the property in its present form to obviate these issues. And that is what I'd like to say, and I hope you will dwell on that.
Thank you, Mr. Moggridge. Councillors, do you have any questions? Yes, Councillor Gavishak.
Just a quick one. Thank you, Mr. Moggridge, for attending this evening and speaking about this planning application. You mentioned the chimney or the flue. Do you know what the intention of the flue is? Is it for a gas boiler or is it for an open fire?
The plans don't actually show what it is, but there are two flues. One is on the east side of the dormer and one is on the west side. And I think they're into living accommodation. So I have assumed that it is a wood burning stove or something similar.
And a supplementary question is, what is the difference in height that you're talking about between the flue and yours, let's say, or neighbours?
Well, all the houses are on the top, very top of the roof. The chimney goes up above the roof. These are probably 2 meters lower.
Okay.
At a guess.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, I accept, Mr. Moggridge, that this is a substantial development next door to you, and you know, it's one of those things that happens, but this really is some measure of an overdevelopment. The question I wanted to ask is, did the neighbours contact you before the application went in? And secondly, if any of the windows were opaque, would you be happier that they were there? Obviously, the Juliet balcony is a considerable infringement on your privacy, but were some of the windows to be opaque? Would that make a difference?
In my submission, I looked up a very old law, which may be out of date now, but those days it stated that it would be acceptable if they were opaque, so that people couldn't look onto our property and see us having a quiet party or two. Or else they should be more than 1.7 meters, I think. In other words, they would be up level with the ceiling. And I think that would be a big step in the right direction. We don't want to handicap what these people want to do, but it's just as long as our privacy is preserved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I see none. Okay, many thanks, Mr. Moggridge. You're very welcome to stay with us, but if you wouldn't mind just switching off your camera.
Switch off my camera, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. Crook. Hello, Mr. Crook.
Hello there.
Hello. If you'd just like to let the councillors know which application you're speaking to, and then whenever you're ready.
I'd like to talk about Rotherfield Road, item 10. I must compliment whoever wrote the objection because it's very concise and it encapsulates exactly the points we're trying to make. Most of the councillors, well, all the councillors will be aware of Rotherfield Road, but I would like to take you through 2 or 3 minutes talking about the danger to the area. Could the Deputy Clerk allow me to share my screen, please?
You should be able to do that now, Mr. Crook.
Can you? So can you see a large green blob in the middle?
Yeah.
Right. This is the area of Rotherfield Road. It's just not a road by itself, it's an area. The appellant wants to define a neighbourhood as being a much larger area. I would maintain that what we see here, and as you can see, it's quite a large part of Hanley, this green blob, is a neighbourhood in its own right. The appellant talks quite a lot about neighbouring roads and the fact it has apartments and semi-detached houses. The nearest semis are at the top of Harpston Road here, and as far as I can see, the nearest apartments are here by the Three Horseshoes pub. So Rotherfield Road can only be classed as a neighbourhood in its own right. Reinforcing this, we see that the dotted line here is the Henley boundary. So we're right on the edge of Henley. And the line that follows the green blob is the area, the same area. As you can see from these areas, they're quite large gardens. In fact, they're very large gardens. Directly opposite Balmahar, which has an acreage of about 1.3, 1.1 acres. We have Highleys with 6.7 acres. We have Cedar House with 6.1 acres. It's different. It's a neighbourhood in its own right. The road is quite long. From A to B is 600 metres. Balmahar is at the 450 metre mark. So any traffic or additional traffic that comes down this road has a long way to go before it can leave the neighbourhood of Rotherfield Road. Much has been said about the types of houses. This is one neighbour of 42 Blandy Road. Here is another one. They're large houses in large gardens. Rotherfield Road is described by both SODC and yourselves as being verdant. This shows what it's like. You probably walked along it yourselves at some occasion. There are grass verges, there are no footpaths. All these trees have got TPOs on them. We've already lost one TPO through this application. One tree through this application. People walk up and down here, doesn't matter whether it's winter. And there are always problems with parking, vehicles getting through. Doesn't matter whether you're a wagon this size or a pair of cars. You can get through, obviously, if you're sensible. My biggest concern is that cars will roll out of the estate, and I don't hesitate to call it an estate because that's what it is, and will roll out onto the road and vehicles will have trouble passing. Not only will vehicles have trouble passing, but also residents and walkers will have trouble negotiating and will be driven onto the curb. I've got one last thing to show you. This is the traffic survey or the traffic routing plan provided by the appellant. I'm not quite clear how well you can see this, but basically the plan has insisted on a pavement, which is roughly following my arrow. This vehicle is not only crossing the pavement, but it's going onto the grass verge. How on earth they will cope when vehicles are parked there, visitors are parked there, I just don't know. Well, I do know, because what will happen, they'll stay on the road. They'll stay on the road. The problem we saw before with vehicles passing will be just blown out of all proportion. Finally, because I've tried to keep this short since you've seen it probably before, the two things I'm particularly concerned about are balance and precedent. I came down from the north 50 years ago. And one of the things that surprised me was that a place like Henley had one of the higher percentages of council houses in the country. That's all gone, of course. And what we're short of are houses for the youngsters. There's no way this helps anybody. No way it helps them at all. The other thing that concerns me is precedent. With 95% certainty, I could locate or name the next house that will fall to this type of development in Rotherfield Road. If it produced houses for youngsters, good. It won't. It will produce houses that are in the region of, as these are, apartments from 1.2 and houses slightly higher. So I would encourage you to as strongly as possible encourage the council to go forward to the appeal meeting as forcefully as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Crook. If we could have our screen back.
Oh, right. No, I don't want you to. Right. Okay.
Sorry, I lost my clock there when you were showing the screen, so I don't know how long that was.
2 minutes, 10 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Crook.
It felt like 2 days.
Councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Hamilton, you do.
Yeah. Quick question for Mr. Crook. The appellant's name is in the name of A. Wrigley. Is he aware that a developer has now bought this site? And who is it?
I am aware that there is I think it's probably an option, Councillor Hamilton. It's Palatine Homes. I'm advised that it is not a sale, it's an option. I obviously don't know the facts. It's one of the curiosities of the legal profession, of which I'm not one.
No, I just understand that the appeal has to be named in the main name of the appellant being the person who put the application in to begin with. But my understanding is that this has been sold on or optioned on, as it were. And so we need to be very strong in terms of ensuring that the points you raised very, very well are put forward to the planning officers.
Yes, can I make an additional comment? I'm not sure whether it's a planning condition, not condition, wrong word. It's a planning matter. But those houses have got a direct, that house, Balmoral, has got a direct link to Peppard Road for drainage. However, it's a 4-inch pipe, and the planning authority, Thames Water, say it should be a 6-inch pipe, otherwise it's going to cause problems. I just bring it up because it's recently been identified.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Crook. If you wouldn't mind turning your camera off. You're welcome to stay with us if you wish to, Mr. Crook. Mr. Lincoln, thank you for joining us this evening. If you wouldn't mind just informing the councillors which application you're speaking to, and then whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good evening, councillors. And I would like to comment on the Obama appeal, which Hugh Crook has just covered in some detail. My name is Tim Lincoln. My wife and myself have lived in number 38 Rotherfield Road, which is adjacent to Balmoral, for over 23 years. The appeal seeks to overturn SODC's refusal of planning permission, which I'm sure you're aware of, to replace the one house on the Balmoral site with 11 dwellings, 6 semi-detached houses and a large apartment block all with associated garages. This application builds on an earlier approved application to build 3 detached houses, which was immediately challenged with an expiration of an option to build 5 houses. Those 5 houses were turned down by the planning officer, so the application went forward for 11 dwellings. One wonders just how many more we can foresee for the future. In both cases, SODC refused the application for 2 reasons. Firstly, to failure to provide any on-site affordable housing, and secondly, that the proposed development will be out of keeping with the prevailing character of Rotherfield Road. Now, in both cases, the SODC has quoted in detail the development plan and the relevant policies to justify the refusal, and I don't intend to go over those, but I'd like to comment on 3 aspects. Firstly, the appeal's claim about the prevailing character of Rotherfield Road. Now, as Hugh has just identified, the appeal claims that actually the prevailing character of Rotherfield Road is to be determined in part by the nature of properties on nearby roads. The implication of this, of course, is that any semi-detached houses or apartment blocks which are to be found nearby it is claimed that the application of 11 dwellings on Rotherfield Road cannot be held to be detrimental to the character of the road. In other words, if there is to be found in remotely near to Rotherfield Road an apartment block or a semi-detached house, then the argument in the appeal is that that directly affects the character of Rotherfield Road, and therefore buildings cannot be said to be detrimental. This claim ignores a number of facts. Firstly, that semi-detached houses
Sorry,
and
Mr.
apartment
Lincoln,
blocks.
you're actually out of time.
Am I?
But if you'd like to sum up, we'd be happy for you to sum up.
Okay, I didn't realise how much of the time was being absorbed.
Yeah, it's two to 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think we've covered the arguments about the prevailing character. It's a totally fallacious claim. Secondly, the appeal argues that the planning officers came to an unqualified recommendation to grant planning consent, which leaves little or no room for judgment. That's plainly incorrect. It ignores the repeated emphasis in the planning statement that members' judgment was paramount. And it's very difficult to understand why the claim can be made that there was no room for judgment. And that leads to the last point. The appeal makes the quite extraordinary statement that members subsequently resolved to refuse planning permission, principally on the basis they didn't agree with the professional officers. In other words, councillors, members of the planning committee, this includes, of course, yourselves, were in some way held to be negligent because they didn't agree with the officers. The appeal statement was put together by a firm specialising in difficult appeal situations. So you can take it that there's an implication there that members were in some way irresponsible for not accepting the officer's recommendation. Now, this is an absurd claim to make. It is counter to the very foundations of local democracy and accountability. It is an unjustified and highly discourteous claim on the planning members of SODC, including yourselves. I really would like to urge you to state in the strongest possible terms that this appeal be dismissed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. Do we have any questions, councillors, for Mr. Lincoln? No, I see none. Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. You're welcome to stay with us. Okay, so that concludes the public participation. Let's now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is number 5, and that's plans amended. If you could turn to page 13. Now, I did say at the start of the meeting, councillors, that we don't have our planning officer with us this evening. However, before she left for her annual leave, she did actually leave us with her observations. So Kath will be reading those this evening. Okay, so let's move on to the only amended plan we have this evening, which is P20 S3545, and it's a householder application for Rotherfield, 30 Rotherfield Road. Kath.
Jodie didn't have any comments to make on this one.
Oh, okay, fine. Right, so councillors, Councillor Gavishak, you have a proposal.
I suggest we reiterate our approval that we made at the last time without exactly the same statements. So I recommend approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Plants. Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No. Okay, let's put this to the vote then. The motion is for a repeat of our approval with conditions. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, over the page, councillors, we're moving on to agenda item 6, which is plans new. And the first one is P21 S0449, and it's a householder application, 17 York Road. Kath.
No comment on this one.
I thought when we spoke earlier, I thought you.
No, Jodie. No, she's She said that she has no comment to make on it.
Oh, okay, fine. I've got you. Okay. So there are no comments. Jodie says no comments. Councillor Plant, do you have a proposal?
Approval.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Gavashak. Would any other councillor like to speak? Yes, Councillor Eggleton.
On mute.
I thought I took myself off mute. I must have muted myself. The as long as it's in character with other existing extensions.
So I didn't quite catch that, Councillor Eggleton. Could you repeat it?
As long as it's in character with other extensions in that area. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Councillor Plant, you proposed.
Yeah, it looks to be so. So yeah, I've got no. If Councillor Eggleton wants that as an amendment, I've got no issues with it. But
yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, it's just approval.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak before we put this to the vote? No, I see none. So all those in favour of approval, please raise your hands. Thank you. That's carried. The next two I'd like to take together, and it's P21 SO451, and it's a full application for the Argyle. And the other one is a listed application, and it's P21 SO452, again, the Argyle. Kath.
Okay, Jodie's comments are, this is a grade 2 listed building within the main conservation area. The issues to be considered are the impact on appearance and character of the public house, street scene, wider area, local plan policies, DES 1 and DES 2, high quality design and local character apply, and DQS1 of the JHHMP. Whether there are any issues regarding the impact on neighbouring properties. This part of the town centre already has a tight arrangement. It might be appropriate to include a condition limiting the hours of use. Local plan policies, DES 5 and DES 6, residential amenity apply. Consideration by the Conservation Officer of the impact of the proposed development on the significance of the designated heritage asset. Local plan policy N7 applies. Acknowledge the need for additional floor space to ensure compliance with COVID-19 secure guidelines. It might be appropriate for a temporary permission to be granted.
Thank you. Councillors, any proposals? Yes, Councillor Plant.
I think it sounds like a good plan. I'm sure we're all familiar with the space out the back of the Argyle at the moment. It looks like it will certainly be in keeping, if not an improvement of what they have there already at the moment. They've got raised decking all along one side of it, as it were, and they already have an outdoor kind of covered area that you can sit and have some drinks in. So it's not a huge change from what they already have, but I do think that we should consider adding a limit to 11 p.m. The space being used in. It's going to have a whole number of flats next to it shortly, in addition to the number that are already there. So I would certainly limit its use to 11 p.m. at the absolute latest. I don't think we can put any other limitations on it, such as music and bits like that. They already have use of the outdoor space, unless Councillor Gavashak wishes to add some more, as it were.
Okay, Councillor Gavashak, are you seconding?
I will second. Just speak briefly. No, Lawrence, you've spoken very well on this particular one. I mean, the fact that we should support local business does not override the listed building status. But I think this is absolutely fine. It's making their outside areas habitable. I absolutely agree with you, Lawrence, about the 11 p.m. and we should actually note that in the thing. But no, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we've got another couple of councillors who'd like to speak. Councillor Hamilton, you've got your hand up.
I too am in favour of this application. However, I would ask Councillor Plant to also add to it that we include a waste closet at the far end of the car park for the storage of bins. There are a number of bins down there at the moment. I was down there today, and it needs a waste facility in line with the new guidelines to ensure that the pub has a covered area where bins are stored and kept so that the truck can come in and pick it up, etc., etc.
I think it would need to be a separate plan if they were to put a building down at the end of the car park. It's a different.
It wouldn't be a building; it'd just be a shed or type of closet, whatever you want to call it. But I think we should ask them to include a waste facility so that we can
speak to them about it. It would just be separate to the area that they're discussing. It's separated by a large space from where they're doing the pergolas. In the
Yeah, I'd say it's part of the planning condition that the planning officer will look at.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Councillor Eggleton, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, as long as they're working with the guidelines of English heritage and listed structures, grade 2. Are they working with that, Stefan?
That isn't part of what Councillor Plant has proposed, and neither has Councillor Gavashak seconded.
I'll help Councillor Eggleton. I mean, we could actually add subject to the conservation officer, so it covers the listed building bit.
Yeah. Thank
Councillor
you.
Plants.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Crook, you wanted to speak before we put this to the vote?
Regarding the bins, I'm pretty sure they could just put some screening around the bins so that they're screened off and doesn't need to be an actual building like shed or anything. So I'm pretty
We've
sure
already covered that. We've already covered that, Councillor Crook. It will be part of the planning condition.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put this to the vote then. So we've got a motion which has been seconded for approval subject to the conditions that we've laid out. Kath, have you got all of those noted, or did you want Councillor Plant to sum up?
I've got them noted.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's put this to the vote. And all those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Right, let's move on to the next item, which is P21 SO498, and it's a householder application, and it's 12 Manor Road. Kath.
Jodie suggests that we could include a condition to ensure that the building stays ancillary to the main dwelling. Local plan policy DES 6 applies, which is with regard to residential amenity. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Crook.
I want someone to propose it because I want to speak to it.
Okay.
Lawrence is going to propose it.
Councillor Gavashak, your turn.
Well, I'm going to propose refusal of this, and it's mainly on the grounds that the tree officer demands a arboricultural study before this planning application is allowed. So therefore, I think that's a stopper on it. If the tree report comes in, then SODC will look at the tree report. But at the moment, I propose refusal.
Okay, is that seconded? Councillor Eggleton, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak before we put this to the vote?
Can I speak?
Yes, Councillor Crook and then Councillor Arlett.
My concerns are people are springing up these office type gyms type rooms, but it just baffles me why they then want to put a toilet and a shower in them if they're so close to their house. Do they have very weak bladders? Because it reeks of Airbnb to me, and they must think we're dumb.
Well, they haven't put a little kitchenette in yet.
No, it doesn't matter. But if they have a water supply, they can have an Airbnb. We're not stupid. And also Manor Road is very tight for parking along that particular bit, so that should be taken in to consideration as well. So
they shouldn't need to park to get to the office though. Like it'll be walking distance to get there, surely.
Maybe remove
we're slightly moving off the let's hear from Councillor Arlett, and then I'll ask Councillor Gavashak to sum up.
Yes, Jim, I see nothing wrong with this application. I think we're getting a little bit carried away here. If I'm sure you've all looked at the plans today or over the weekend. 2 doors away, there's a similar one, which is probably about 50% bigger than what's being proposed here. And as for Councillor Gavashak's view on the trees, SODC will take care of that. This is nothing that Henley Town Council can take care of. We're just looking at the plan application for whatever you want to call it, a shed or whatever. And as Jodie said, as long as it's ancillary to the house, for the people in the house, I see no problem with this whatsoever. We'd be wasting our time putting forward refusal. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Arlett. Would any other councillor like to speak before we put this to the vote? Yes, Councillor Plants.
No, I was just going to say, the other way to do it is we obviously put a recommendation for approval and put just subject to the tree officer being happy, which I think Councillor Arlott is saying that will happen at district anyway. And it's a lot like we often have with Councillor Eggleston saying about conservation officers. It's kind of like we're always going for approval subject to those things anyway, because they kind of override us anyway. So
okay, yes, Councillor Eggleston, you wanted to speak, and then Councillor Gavashak.
With Councillor Gavashak, so if it was put forward on that sort of thing, on the basis that what's been said, would you go for approval on that or not?
Councillor Gavashak, you're welcome to answer that one, but what I'm going to suggest is that we actually put this to the vote because it's been seconded.
Sorry, I'll answer it up if you wish.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I made a proposal in good faith on the evidence that I have, and I've been on the planning website. I've looked at the plans, and I've also looked at the report. And at the moment, there is the potential for harm to trees. So therefore, the forestry officer said an arboricultural report is needed. So that's why I from my point of view, it's a stopper. Regarding the ancillary, yes, we can add that to it. Well, we're going for refusal anyway. Just about Councillor Crook's comments about the shower, I think they probably need the shower not for Airbnb but for Airbo. So that would be the reason for the shower. Thank you. Anyway, pop it to the vote and we'll see what happens. Thank you, Chair.
I like it. Okay. Yes, let's put it to the vote then. So we've got the proposal is for refusal. It's been seconded. All those in favour? Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. All those against? 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's carried. Thank you.
Chairman, you can vote if you wish to.
No, I know which way I'm going. Okay, thank you.
You want to tell us?
I think it's
I already have. I already have. Okay, let's move on. Gosh, that caused a lot of debate, didn't it?
Sorry.
Right, let's move on. P21 S0519. It's a householder application. It's 3 Norman Avenue. Kath.
Jodie had no comments to make on this application.
No observations. Thank you. Councillor Grant.
Got to be a straightforward acceptance approval.
Thank you. Councillor Gavashak, seconding.
Just to make your life easier, Chair. Yes, I'm seconding for approval.
No conditions this time.
No, none at all. None at all. Don't go near that.
Okay, would any other councillor like to speak? No, I see none. So let's put this to the vote then. We've got a very straightforward approval. It's been seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. And next is, we've got P21 S0562. It's a householder application and it's 73 Blandy Road. Kath.
Jodie notes that the main issues to consider are whether the scale and the design of the proposal is in keeping with the character of the dwelling, the site and the surrounding area. The policies DES 1 and DES 2, high quality design and local character, apply, and DQS1 of the neighbourhood plan. Also, whether there are any issues regarding the impact on neighbouring properties with regard to DES 5, outdoor amenity space, and DES 6, residential amenity. Jodie notes that this will see an increase in floor area, but will include the demolition of the existing garage and shed. Unfortunately, it would also involve the loss of the front boundary hedge for hard surfacing, but the site is not within the conservation area.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Gavashak, you had your hand up.
Yes, I'm going to propose refusal of this. If it's seconded, I will speak.
Okay, yes, Councillor Hamilton had his hand up. You're seconding.
I'm seconding the proposal.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay,
Right,
yes.
well,
would you like to speak?
Yes. Thank you to Mr. Mogridge for turning up. I had already looked at the plans beforehand. I think this is, I'm proposing refusal because I think it's over-intensive, overdeveloped, and it's not a sympathetic design at all. The dormer windows are large, and Juliet balconies have the potential for huge overlooking of neighbouring properties, because people can stand on the Juliet balcony, look right, left, and forward. The loss of the hedge at the front and the parking is an issue. So therefore, there may well be others. I'm not in favour of amending it to opaque windows of anything. I think a straightforward refusal, and I will be talking about calling this in to the District Council when we get to that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Hamilton, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, this is overdevelopment. This is over intensive. This is unneighbourly. I too think we should give this a straight refusal and go away and have a rethink. The reason for questioning the opaque windows with Mr. Modridge was to see whether there was any windows possibly that could be made opaque to accommodate. But it's quite clear that this is way out of character with the area and the privacy of the neighbour, and for that reason I'll be voting for a straight refusal.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Yes, Councillor Crook.
And no to any windows that can open, because you can still overlook people when they can nose out and stuff, so it's a real invasion of privacy.
Councillor Eggleton.
I know that it's probably not in the conservation area and all the other stuff, but taking out of hedgerows and not putting hedgerows back, doesn't matter where it is. It's if everybody takes their hedgerows out, it just destroys the environment and wildlife. Wildlife has to have somewhere to go, and they seem to be taking out hedgerows after hedgerows and putting fences up and walls. What we should be putting in is more hedgerows when they take them out.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Eggleton. Okay, so let's put this to the vote then. We've got the proposal for refusal. It's been seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried, and Councillor Arlett abstained.
Going to abstain, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, the last one on this page is P21 SO565, full application, and it's land to the rear of 57 to 59, the Bull on Bell, aka. Okay, Kath.
Okay. Jodie notes that this is in the conservation area and it's a Grade 2 listed building. When considering the impact of a proposed development and the significance of a designated heritage asset, great weight should be given to the asset's conservation. We should also consider the positive contribution that conservation of heritage assets can make to sustainable communities, including their economic vitality. Local plan policy M7 listed buildings applies. We also need to consider whether there are any issues regarding the impact on neighbouring properties. DES 5 outdoor amenity space and DES 6 residential amenity apply. Jodie acknowledges the need for additional floor space to ensure compliance with COVID-19 secure guidelines. Subject to the satisfaction of the conservation officer, it might be appropriate for a temporary permission to be granted.
Thank you. Councillor Plant.
I'm not sure if I read it wrong. We're going through some of the other comments. It doesn't look like on the initial permission that some of our stipulations about amplified music and hours were included in the planning regulation. Am I incorrect on that one? Because I thought we had said no amplified music was to be used in the exterior space, and I thought we'd also put an 11 p.m. curfew on it.
My understanding is that this is still being considered at SODC. Kath, did you read our response? Did it? Because we did actually specify those two, didn't we, on the previous application, not this one, but the previous one.
I think we put a time limit. I don't remember.
Time limit and amplified music, because that's what we signed off in the minutes.
Yeah. So I think unless those are definitely in it and upheld, I'd be minded to refuse this one until those stipulations are confirmed.
Yeah, like I say, these are now going to be running side by side. So the previous one that we discussed is still under consideration, and this one has come forward, and this is just for the pergola structure.
Yeah.
Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, we did break the previous application we approved with the subject to 11 o'clock cutoff.
Yeah.
I haven't got a problem with this one at all because it goes with that. You know, they're not putting in a monstrosity here. What they wanted to do is to turn a car park back into a pub area to give them more space so that they can social distance and run a facility during the summer. So with that binding, you know, up to 11 o'clock, no amplified music after that time, I haven't got a problem with this or the pergola. So my proposal would be for approval.
Okay, so we have a proposal for approval. Is that seconded by any councillor? Councillor Eggleton, thank you. Right, would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Crook.
Yeah, I did read on one of the comments, and I didn't attend the last planning meeting where we were discussing this application, but someone has commented that they're going to be having outdoor heaters, and I really object to that. I know it's going to be outside, but I don't know why people can't put a coat on, or even they provide blankets. No, I don't like outdoor heaters. They're really bad for the environment. They're not funny, Will. We have a climate emergency, and I don't want to be encouraging people using fuel when we don't need to. It's serious. You can laugh all you like and think climate emergency is a load of rubbish, but it's real.
Guys, just keep on
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Councillor Plants.
I think, yeah, if we read Catherine Rogers, I know it might be incorrect, but Catherine Rogers has stated in her response that under P20 S4832 full, despite the concerns expressed by Henley Town Council, the following was granted: permanent permission, the use of outside space until midnight and later, undefined, the use of sound amplification in the outside space from 9 till 11. So I just think we need to check if that is actually granted. Then I'm not minded to grant this one. And I get what I am fully in support of it if those are upheld, but I'm just worried about potentially granting this one, trying to put in the same recommendations, but if they've already been
if you're looking at a planning application there, are you looking on your screen at the moment?
No, it's just, sorry, I'm just reading Catherine Rogers' comments on this one, as it were. But I can try.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's the other one that we need the planning application number for, because I'm sure that that's what was signed off in the minutes. Definitely.
It was in our minutes, but according to her, it's not what is being passed at district if it's gone through district.
No, it's still being decided at district, isn't it?
Councillor
Arlett, can you help on this one at all?
Well, can I propose refusal subject to the other constraints being made?
Chairman, can we ask speakers to go through the chair, please? Thank you.
Councillor Arlett.
You did ask me a question, yeah. As far as I'm aware, I haven't seen anything come through to say planning permission has been passed.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah. So we can check that. No, that's definitely gone through. But no, it hasn't been decided yet. It's still under consideration. But we definitely did those, and we can certainly add those in, and we can add those in tomorrow, can't we, Kath?
Yeah.
Because that's what's in the minutes.
Yes.
Councillor Gavishak, you wanted to speak.
Well, no one's made a proposal, so I will.
Councillor Hamilton has made a proposal, but you did actually change it, didn't you?
No, I make a proposal for approval, subject to including the other two aspects with it, amplified music being stopped at 11 o'clock, as previously discussed in the minutes
And
of the Town Council.
by Councillor Eggleton.
Yeah.
You're still seconding. Okay, Councillor Gavishak, go ahead.
Sorry, what was the proposal then? Sorry.
Approval of this pergola, subject to including the two previous points that we discussed, which was amplification of music stopping at 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay. I will vote for that. Thank you.
Just to clarify, it's to be used only till 11 o'clock, and there is a limit on amplified music.
Correct.
All right.
Yep.
So there were two separate.
Yeah.
You're happy with that? Okay, Councillor Crook.
Yeah, can we add a condition that they have no outdoor heaters, please? Because they are bad for the environment.
Councillor Hamilton.
I will, yes, I will. I'll allow the amendment.
Okay, Councillor Eggleton. Sorry, is that yes? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, so we've got that. Would any other councillor like to speak just before I put this to the vote, just to double check? Councillor Plant.
Just to say, the other one has already been passed.
Has it? Have you had a look?
Yeah, you can read it.
Decisions come in from SODC.
Yeah, you can read it on the website now. It says, with the
Okay.
exception of more than, so for 20 days a year, so they've got till midnight use at the moment. So they've got 9 till midnight. And then it says, no operation of sound amplification equipment shall take place in any part of the extended pub garden hereby approved between the hours of 11 and 9. So it seemed to say that outside of 11 p.m. till 9 a.m. it cannot be used, but it basically therefore states that inside those periods it, I guess, effectively can be used. So I don't think it does follow what we recommended at all, but you're welcome to read it yourselves and see if you feel fit, and we can.
No. Okay, Councillor Hamilton.
I'm fine with the proposal.
Okay. All right, and you're still happy, Councillor Eggleton? Okay, let's put this to the vote then. So we've got the proposal for approval subject to conditions as stated. Kath, you happy that you've got those down? Yeah, okay. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Right, let's go to over the, so we've got over the page, please. Page 16. We've got P21 SO571. It's a householder application and it's 67 Kings Road. Kath.
Jodie had no comments to make on this application.
Thank you. Councillor Gavishak.
Propose acceptance.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Arlett. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, let's go for the vote then. So the motion is for acceptance. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. The next two I'll take together, councillors, which is P21 SO572. It's a listed building, and it's P21 SO576, which is advertising, and it's 19 to 21 Marketplace. Kath.
Jodie had no comments to make on this application.
Thank you. Councillor Gavishak.
Well, in the light of another application that's coming up later on the agenda, I'm going to propose refusal of this. We should support our conservation officer. The conservation officer has clearly said this is not acceptable because it does not conform to our shop guide, which is great for a conservation officer to actually support us in Henley. So therefore, I'm going to propose refusal and encourage the conservation officer to have a chat with the owners of this property to get an application that is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. That's seconded. Councillor Eggleton, you're seconding. Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, let's put this to the vote then. Councillor Plant, did you want to speak?
I was just going to say, and also just note that the time that I think they wish to have it lit, or the shop light, they basically wanted their windows lit 24 hours a day, which I think is fairly excessive.
Yeah, the conservation officer's pointed that out, hasn't she?
Which I think should also be noted as a reason for our refusal. If you're happy to.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Councillor Hamilton, you want to speak?
Yeah, we're prepared to limit the time, and as we have done with other shops, and allow them to have these signs or not.
No.
Okay, right. So let's put this to the vote then. We've got a proposal for refusal. It's been seconded. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, thank you. That's carried. Right, so moving on, we've got P21 SO578. It's a listed building application, and I'm going to take it with the next one, which is P21 SO581. That's odd. There's two listed buildings together. Okay. Okay, so it's for 86 West Street, Kath.
Yes, so are you taking them both together, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's wise. I think I think we can handle it as councillors.
Yeah. So with the first one, Jodie has no comments and just thinks it looks acceptable, subject to acceptance of the conservation officer. And for the second one, she says it's positive to see replacement with timber windows, and also thinks it looks acceptable, subject to the views of the conservation officer.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Crook.
And propose acceptance.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Plant. Would any other councillor like to speak before we put this to the vote? We've got, yes, Councillor Eggleton.
As long as they're working with the conservation officer on this, on both of these, on the step, on the doorstep and everything else, because it needs to fit in character, which is what is already there, really. So it doesn't look out of place, and with the other stuff. So as long as they're working with the conservation and the heritage, then that's fine.
Councillor Crook.
Yeah, they're actually using midnight blue. Is that allowed? Is that allowed? Because that's the colour they want to use. But I
don't know. That'd have to be down to the conservation officer, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Councillor Hamilton.
I'm just pleased to see they're using timber, and I'm sure they work with the conservation officer. And as a matter of preference, I'm quite happy with midnight blue.
I'm sure that is a heritage colour, but I could be wrong. Midnight blue, I'm sure it is. Okay, let's put this to the vote then, unless any other councillor would like to speak first before I put this to the vote. No. Okay, so we've got the motion is for approval. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, next is P21 SO583. It's a householder application and it's 18 Vicarage Road, Kath.
Jodie notes that the SODC pre-application advice stated that it was likely that proposed development for 18 Vicarage Road would be considered acceptable in relation to design and impact on neighbouring residents within Vicarage Road. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Gavashak.
Propose acceptance.
Seconded. Councillor Plant, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, let's put this to the vote then. All those in favour of approval? And against? Thank you, that's carried. Next is P21 SO654 and it's a householder application. It's 8 Norman Avenue. Kath.
Jodie notes that when considering the impact of a proposed development on the significance of a designated heritage asset, great weight should be given to the asset's conservation. So therefore, this is subject to the acceptance of the conservation officer, and local plan policy ENV7 listed buildings applies.
Actually, councillors, thank you, Kath. Before we go on, I'm just actually want to take the listed building application, which is for the same house, which is P21 SO655. The observations are the same from the planning officer, aren't they, for that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you, Councillor Gavashak.
Kath, thanks for your comments on that, and Jodie's comments, which are always very useful. I'm going to propose acceptance, subject to the conservation officer, who clearly will be involved anyway. So I think it's a nice design, and I think it's it's not an improvement on this property because these properties are beautiful anyway. So it doesn't do any harm or detrimental value to it. So propose acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Yes, Councillor Arlett, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No. Okay, let's put this to the vote then. So all those in... someone's just gone.
Yeah, Lawrence has gone. His laptop has died. He's just texted me. So on WhatsApp.
Okay.
I'm sure he'll recharge and come back in about 3 applications time, but carry on, all right?
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Okay, so I've lost my train of thought. So we've got, it's for approval. It's been seconded. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So moving on, page 17, we've got, we've already done the listed building one. So let's move on to P21 SO658 listed building, Hanover House, Homelands Way. Kath.
Jodie had no comments to make on this one.
Thank you. Councillors, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, proposed acceptance is like for like.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Eggleton.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, of course.
As long as they're using the same type, because it's replacing the roof, as long as they're using the existing stuff and not gonna stand out. I know it's going to stand out a little bit, but as long as it's using the proper stuff and it's working with the conservation officer.
Yeah, of course. Councillor Gavishak, did you want to speak?
Yeah, this is absolutely fine. Can anyone explain to me why Hanover House is a listed building? Sorry, it was.
I'm afraid I can't help.
In terms of
Councillor
listing,
Arlett, Councillor Hamilton.
Merit in it in terms of listing, but anyway, I'm happy with the like-for-like replacement.
Councillor Arlett.
Ken can answer that.
I think a lot of that is the age of it. It's many years old, and it was refurbished. Must be 20-25 years ago now. But I think the age of the building is probably a lot older than we probably think. So I think that's the reason.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak before we put this to the vote? No? Okay, all those in favour of approval, like for like. Thank you, that's carried.
Michelle, Chair, could you ask Kath to let Lawrence back in? He's in the waiting room.
Sorry.
We could take a vote on it.
I said to him, have you enjoyed a beer?
All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions?
Oh, you can stop talking about him now. Councillor Plant, we suddenly realised that you'd gone.
Will was like, how long? He was like, how long do you want to be on the waiting room for? It's like, let me in.
Okay, thank you.
The sensible voice of the planning committee.
Can I just say that a little nudge, he did want to come back in and he nudged twice.
That's got to be a good thing, right? Right, okay, so I'll tell you where we are, Councillor Plant. We're at the top of page 17, more or less. We're about to move on to this next one, which is P21 SO664 householder application. And I'll take it with P21 SO670 listed building application for Denmark House. Kath.
SODC pre-application advice stated that subject to the submission of details informed by a heritage appraisal and impact assessment proportionate to the significance of the building and the proposed works as per paragraph 189 of the NPPF, the proposed single-storey rear extension, alterations and upgrading to the dwelling would in principle be acceptable as it complies with the council's policies for extensions and alterations to listed dwellings.
Thank you. Councillors, any proposals? Yes, Councillor Plant.
Approval as long as it meets those criteria.
Yep.
Seconded by Councillor Gavishak.
Yep.
Any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, let's put this to the vote then. All those in favour of approval with the condition that they work with the conservation officer? Yep, that's carried. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to P21 SO713, and it's advertising for 2 Marketplace News. Kath.
This one came in too late for Jodie to comment on it.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, yes, Councillor Gavishak.
I'm going to propose acceptance of this. This was the one I was referring to about the signs earlier. It ticks all the boxes. It's timber. It's in line with our shopfront guide. And what a wonderful name, the Head Gardener.
Yeah,
as you can
see, I thought. Very clever.
I'm desperate for when lockdown ends and I can go and get a haircut because it's a right old mess at the moment. So yeah, no, full approval. Thank you. I propose.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Eggleton, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Okay, thank you. Let's put this to the vote then. All those in favour of approval? That's carried, thank you. And good luck to them. Right, so if next we've got P21 SO717 and it's a full application and it's got a very strange title, so I'll just say it's a Heniwa Regatta. Kath?
Jodie had no comments to make on this one.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Plants?
Yes, approval. They need to be carried out. It's fairly straightforward.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Yeah, I'll
Councillor
second that.
Gavishak, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak?
Just think it needs to be done as soon as possible.
Yeah, thank you. All right, all those in favour of approval? And against? You abstaining, Councillor Arlott?
Yeah, I'm a steward of the regatta, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's carried, thank you. It's good to see them investing in the regatta course, actually, isn't it? Right, so next on our list is P21 SO718 and it's a listed building and it's 47 Market Place. Kath?
Jodie had no comments to make on this one.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Gavishak?
Proposal acceptance.
Seconded? Thank you, Councillor Plants. Would any other councillor like to speak? Okay, all those in favour of approval then? That's carried, thank you. And moving on to page 18, please. We've got P21 SO724 and it's a full application. Block B, Gardiner Place. Kath?
Jodie had no comments to make on this one.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Proposal acceptance.
Seconded. Councillor Gavishak. Would any other councillor like to speak? Yes, Councillor Crook.
Is this removing all those sliding weatherboard things, because they seem to be like a place where pigeons are nesting and all the pigeon poo? I'm sorry, it needs cleaning. They need to get their act together and clean it because it's not very nice when people walk along there. So if the management team could kindly sweep up the pigeon poop, we'd be much grateful for. Yeah,
Councillor Hamilton.
This is actually bigger than what you think. The weatherboards have all been treated and they are fireproof. In order to get insurance for the upstairs of those premises, the cladding has to come off and to be replaced with brick. And that is apparently what the insurance company has stipulated must happen. So all the cladding at the back there is coming off and it's being replaced by brick. It will look very good. The building further up from it, where basically it's taking off some more of the black wood, what you would term as the black wood, and replacing it with brick. So it is quite an operation, but I'm told it will take the best part of 3 months to do. But it's a sensible way forward in light of what we all know about cladding.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hamilton. Okay, so we've got an approval which has been seconded. Would any other councillor like to speak? Okay, let's put to this vote then. All those in favour of approval? Thank you, that's carried. And the last but not least is P21 SO726. It's a listed building application for 2123 Hart Street. Kath?
Jodie had no comments to make on this one.
Thank you. Councillors? Yes, Councillor Gavishak?
Proposal acceptance.
Seconded. Councillor Plants, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No, let's put this to the vote then. All those in favour of approval? That's carried, thank you. Right, that concludes that part of the agenda. Let's move on to number 7, which is objections and call-in applications. Yes, Councillor Gavishak.
The only one I can spot on this agenda is the Blandy Road one. I would like that called in, please.
Okay, all those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Any others before we move on? No, I see none, so let's move on to the next item, which is just to note the decision notices that have come through from SOGC. Any comments? No. Yes, Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, can I just mention on the top of page 22, 85 The Close. I think I was the only one that voted against the application there because the dormer I felt was too big. And so did the officer at SODC, and they've had to reduce it by 1/3 to get planning permission, because I thought it was totally out of character. But obviously the committee didn't, and so I just note that one for you.
Tick.
We really should listen to you more often, Councillor Arlott.
What about tonight's dormers? There were some big ones that went through tonight. You were okay with them?
Well, I just left it to you, boys.
Shocking great dormers gone through tonight.
Can we have a debate on that point?
We know our dormers. Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to number 9, which is withdrawn applications. We've got 11 New Street, we've got 18 St Andrews Road, and we've got Swiss Farm. Now we're coming to item number 10, which is the Town and Country Planning Act appeal against refusal, which is P19 S1003, and it's a full application for Bal Mahar. Kath.
The council or the committee may wish to make further comments. The comments that were made the first time round will be submitted to the planning inspectorate, and we've got until the 24th of March to submit comments. So I'd suggest that the committee decide what they want to say, and Jodie will compile a response to go back in time for the 24th of March.
Thank you. Councillor Gavishak.
Yeah, we've got to bear in mind that this is an appeal with the Department of the Environment, and it will be SODC principally defending their decision to refuse the application on Bal Mahar. But I think we should actually put in, a strong representation for refusal on this one, including all of the comments that we've made before. But the principal ones is this is a development that is out of character for this area. It's proposing blocks of flats, which is out of character for this area. Mr. Crook made a very, very good point that this is like a microcosm of Henley, and it should be protected. And there will be a domino effect on this road if this planning application is allowed, because other big houses will be flattened and blocks of flats and blocks of flats and blocks of flats. In fact, the whole character of the area will change, and we should respect the character of the area. We've already made the point about that this conflicts with our neighbourhood plan. Any site, and in fact, Councillor Arlott and I spoke at this planning application, and we were extremely pleased that the planning committee agreed with us that any site over 10 should be in the neighbourhood plan, and any site over 10 should attract 40% affordable homes. So there are 2 reasons absolutely why we should totally back SODC on this for the refusal. I'll leave it at that, and just to say that it should respect the character of the area, which it does not. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gavishak. Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, I too would like to back what Councillor Gavishak has just said there. I think it's sensible for Jodie to take full responsibility for putting together another submission to SODC to robustly defend this decision. And I would ask that that's distributed to all councillors before it goes off, so that we can all make inputs. I think that's a sensible way to do it. Everyone email Jodie if they've got additional points, and she can incorporate whatever needs to take place.
Yeah, that's what normally happens. But I do believe that the comments will be going direct to the planning inspector, not to SODC.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Yes, agree. I agree with all that Councillor Hamilton has said. Sorry to talk across your chair. I apologise.
No, that's okay.
The comments will go to the DOE. Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Eggleton.
I think this area's, because I've walked up there many a time, it's a place of natural beauty and character. And I think in some places like this, where you put extra traffic, what you do is you lose It looks like you're just in the middle of the country going up there, and when you put more cars and stuff in there, it will then slowly destroy it and bring it down. And I think I know that they need land to build houses on, and we need more houses, but there's certain places that houses can go up without destroying the countryside and the habitat and the wildlife.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Eggleton. Would any other councillor like to speak? No. Yes, Councillor Arlett.
Yeah, I just want to put Mr. Lincoln's mind at rest. He was a bit concerned about the SODC officer having it down for approval. I'll just quote him from an appeal that took place in Packham Prime Lane a while ago now, and everybody thought we were going to lose it. They all thought we were going to lose this appeal. And I managed to get the district council to refuse the application. And on reason 6, it then states, however, a planning committee is not obliged to follow the recommendations of officers of the local highway authority. In this particular case, the committee would have been aware of 2 key points covered in the committee report. And it goes on and on what the officer probably was not. And I think this one is very similar to that. There's a lot of local knowledge that the planning officer would not have been would have not known about in this application. So what one would happen with the local information that's going to go through to the appeal, we would hopefully get a similar result to this. At the moment, we're on an absolutely brilliant run at the moment. We've won about 5 or 6 appeals on the trot now, and that's never been known before. So, you know, hopefully this will be another one that we will win, Chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Gavashak.
Just one final comment. We note that this appeal will be made on the basis of a hearing. So a hearing will take place somewhere in South Oxfordshire, and we should absolutely pitch up and say our 2 pennyworth on it, including all the neighbours as well.
Is that right? Yeah, okay, I'll make a note of that.
Yep. That's page 23, by the way, paragraph 2. The appeal will be determined on the basis of a hearing. So it's not written submissions, it's you go and talk.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, because all of the others
should go up and say no.
Something else, Councillor Arlett, that you should point out is from that very one that you've actually read out. The planning inspector also said that councillors did not have to take notice of highways, what the highways had recommended. So that's interesting as well. Okay, so let's sum up then. Councillor Gavashak, did you want to sum up?
No, I think I've said it all.
Yes, okay. Kath, you're happy with all of the notes. I think we'll go with Councillor Hamilton's proposal. What will happen is that as soon as Jodie comes back from annual leave, which is Monday, I believe, what she'll do is she will actually put all of the relevant points down, and she will circulate it to councillors for our comments of any further comments that we may have. And if there are, she will keep circulating it until we're all happy, and then she will submit it. Okay, all those in favour? Okay, thank you, that's carried. Okay, let's move on, councillors, to oh, and thank you to Mr. Lincoln and Mr. Crook for speaking earlier. Okay, so item number 11, Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group. Now, if you wouldn't mind turning to page 25 to 27, because we do have one recommendation there that's come through from them. Kath, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I would, please.
Okay.
Chair. So on page 26 of your agendas, the recommendation is in minute number 42. The committee, the Climate Emergency Working Group, have proposed that £1,000 of their existing budget is spent on 2 sums of money to go to D2 and the YMCA. This results from energy audits that the Climate Emergency Working Group obtained via the Low Carbon Hub for these 2 buildings. These were carried out by Oxford Brookes. And for D2, there's around £1,000 worth of LED lighting that can be installed. And they're applying to the Low Carbon Hub for £500 grant for that. And the Climate Emergency Working Group would like to make up the balance of that, or match that grant. And for the YMCA, it's a similar thing, but it would be roof insulation. The Climate Emergency Working Group had a budget of £14,000 this year, but is, due to the coronavirus pandemic and also a lack of officer time last summer, hasn't spent the vast majority of it, and this will just go back into the council coffers. So we currently have over £10,000 to spend in this financial year, which is obviously not going to happen. And so the proposal is to spend £1,000 of that now on these two worthy institutions.
Match funded. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that whilst budgets don't need to be spent, in this case, D2 and YMCA, yeah, let's go ahead with it. As long as they've absolutely fully exhausted all these insulation companies that say they can insulate for free and all that government stuff that comes through all the time. As long as they've absolutely made sure that there isn't any other money that's low-hanging fruit, then absolutely, let's put £1,000 towards this.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Eggleton, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Okay, thank you. Let's put this to the vote then. All those in favour of approval? Thank you, that's carried.
Could I just make a comment on item minute 41, Chairman?
Yeah, of course.
Progress on electric vehicle charging infrastructure projects. Councillor Hamilton mentioned a meeting or two back that he felt we weren't doing as good as Oxford City. He had been speaking to ex-County Councillor Nimmo Smith, and how good the Oxford City were doing. Well, I thought I'd look up and find out the reason why. And the reason why actually is there are 48 councillors on Oxford City Council and there's not one Conservative. So maybe that's the reason why they're doing better. And just going on from there as well, if you look on minute 41, down at the second paragraph, the project officer reported that OCC have not shared their draft strategy yet on EV points. So that's the Oxfordshire County Council. Councillor Gavashak may wish to make a comment on that. So we're obviously being held up by Oxfordshire County Council because we wish to go forward and put our own points in, but obviously that's holding us back at the moment. I say maybe Councillor Gavashak would like.
Yeah, we'll be coming to their report in a moment, won't we? Councillor Hamilton, you can come back on that quickly.
Yeah, just I thank Councillor Arlott for his points on point 41 from previous meetings. But I know that having spoken to Councillor Plant today, that he's going to lead the charge on this. I'm sure we'll be supercharged and we'll be getting things going.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Gavashak, quickly, because I want to move on.
Yeah, well, I will comment on it, and thanks, Lawrence, for picking up this from the Transport Strategy Group. Yes, there is. The thing is, I and Tony Hoskins have had 7 meetings in 18 months with OCC officers about EV charging. 7 meetings. And the reason why we can't do anything at the moment on the streets and also in SODC car parks is because OCC have not completed their project report. And until that happens, which is an overview of the whole county infrastructure, and they're now piloting schemes in Bicester, which I've actually driven over to Bicester and seen, and it's very, very good. But until OCC actually finalize their report, we cannot actually implement any charging points on the streets of Henley. I would love to, but we can't because it's OCC owned. Now, I am sure that this report will be coming very, very shortly that Councillor Plant can capitalise on. And as soon as the report is produced, we will be raring to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I'll stop there.
Right, so let's move on to the next page, which is page Page 4. So it's the neighbourhood plan. No, we've done that one. Number 13, Community Land Trust. Kath.
We haven't done the neighbourhood plan committee. We did community.
Oh, I beg your pardon. That was, we did climate emergency. Right, okay. So this is just to note the minutes, please, councillors. Yeah, thank you. Okay, number 13, Community Land Trust. Over to you, Kath.
Right, this was just a brief report. This also comes out of the neighbourhood plan. Dates back really, I would say, to the presentations from developers back in late September last year, when some land was put forward for social housing in Henley. And we've got currently possibly 3 sites around Henley that could be good for a community land trust development. So some interested parties have since then had a presentation from Community First Oxfordshire on collaborative housing. We've had a meeting with Tame Town Council because they've got a community land trust up and running and currently have a planning application in for a community land trust. Also, as part of the survey that we carried out for the neighbourhood plan review, we asked a question about people being interested in community-led housing, and 187 households have returned their contact details asking for further information on this. So I think there's obviously a need for this type of housing in Henley. This would run as a separate body from the town council, though I think at least at the beginning it needs some council support just in terms of administration to get it going and provide some structure. So this report was really just to bring the idea of a community land trust to the council and ask the committee to whether they'd be willing to support the community land trust for Henley.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crook.
Yeah, this is fantastic news. This is great. I would fully support this 100% because we need affordable, well,
truly affordable,
well, social rental we do need, because affordable isn't affordable for people that haven't really gone to university, that grew up in the town, and it will ensure that people can stay in their hometown and won't have to move away. And it's fantastic, and we should be protecting this, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Councillor Plant and then Councillor Gavashak.
Yeah, second Donna, and say thanks to all the hard work that's been done on this. It's a great initiative that hands back control to Henley and the board that would obviously run the community land trust. We can control it, we can define it, we can manage it, and it's in perpetuity. So absolutely fantastic. And I think with some projects that are coming forward, I think it could be absolutely wonderful. So great work.
Councillor Gavashak.
Yeah. Donna and Lawrence, was that a proposal and a seconder of the recommendation on page 37?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Fine, to note the report and confirm the council's support. Yeah, that's what we need initially. And I will at this point actually pay great credit to Kath and also Jodie and also Councillor Arlott as well, who've actually led this project. We've set up meetings and we've been to meetings, Zoom meetings with Tame. Tame are about 2 years ahead on this. They've gone for a different model. So it might be worth explaining what their model is and what we think our model will be. In Tame, they have set up community land banks to build houses for sale that are cheap. Now, our model is completely different. We want to set up a community land trust to build houses for rental, for social rental going forward. Now, the way forward for this, just to explain to the councillors, is that we will, after we've approved this resolution, we will actually set up a board of trustees, and Kath and Jodie will be leading on this, doing the administration. That's in order for us to attract funding from the government and to actually hoover up land in Henley that is desirable. And the board of trustees would be drawn from a wide range of people. So that that will come in the future, but this has great possibilities for transforming low-cost social rental housing in Henley. Thank you.
Councillor Crook.
I'd just like to add, this is great because I'm pretty sure most of you are aware that one housing association want to demolish about 50 affordable social rental properties because they deem them unfit, which I think is absolutely appalling. But I really wish they would change their mind, because we do need more social rental, and I really want them to keep it as it is. But it would be great if they could, if that was being demolished, because it will be rebuilt as affordable, which won't be social rent. But yeah, maybe they could go there or something, and the people, so they won't have to go out of town.
Thank you. Councillor Eggleton.
Yeah, I'm assuming that Donna's talking about some houses in where she lives. Them houses are not going to be knocked down now. They're all being refurbished and being re-let out. At some point, they will be probably. I can't speak on behalf of those because, but I do know they are being done back up and being rented back out to families, and they are affordable, and that is social housing. At some stage, because of their the structure of them and things, they will probably be modernised or knocked down at some point. But at this particular time, they will be not. They are being refurbished and re-let.
Can I just say we're straying off the agenda item here. What I think we should do with this is, okay, let's just deal with this agenda item. What I'm going to suggest is that perhaps, I know which company you're talking about, Councillor Crook and Councillor Eggleton. Perhaps we should invite them to a meeting with some of us councillors, because there is a growing concern. And I think it really is about time that we invited them to the table to have a discussion, just to bring us, just to bring us up to speed with what exactly their intentions are, because at the end of the day, all of their stock did belong to, once upon a time, SODC, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think they owe it to the people of Henley to actually what they're going to
deal
do
with this item first.
Yes.
I'd just like to say they're going to have a meeting in the autumn. They were proposing a meeting in the autumn. That's what I was going to say.
Councillor Hamilton, quickly.
Chair, please, can you put the recommendation to the vote? And that's procedural.
Exactly. Right, okay, so let's go back to the Community Land Trust. And the proposal is for acceptance. It's been seconded. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Right, next, moving on, we've got number 14, which is the government consultation, changes to the planning policy framework and the national model design codes. Kath.
Yeah, I have some comments that Jodie had made on this consultation. The consultation seeks views on draft revisions to the national planning policy framework and the national model design codes, implementing policy changes in response to the Building Better, Building Beautiful Commission recommendations. It proposes a number of changes to strengthen environmental policies, including those arising from the review of flood risk with DEFRA, and aiming for new streets to be tree-lined and improving biodiversity and access to nature through design. These are mostly minor changes to clarify policy and amend out-of-date material. Government is not proposing a review of the NPPF in its entirety at this stage. This will be dependent on the implementation of the government's proposals for wider reform of the planning system. The consultation is also seeking views on the draft National Model Design Code, which provides detailed guidance on the production of design codes, guides and policies to promote successful design. A design code is a set of illustrated design requirements that provide specific detailed parameters for the physical development of a site or area. It is positive that there will be greater emphasis on approving good design and refusing poor quality schemes by asking local planning authorities to produce their own design guides or codes. One point of concern are the proposals for Article 4 to remove national permitted development rights. See paragraph 53 of the proposed NPPF consultation document. They're proposing that Article 4 directions are only applied to the smallest geographical area possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, who'd like to start, or would you like me to start?
Oh, Chair, we'd like you to start.
Okay. Seeing as I have done rather a lot of work on this. Basically, what I thought was anything where the government have said that they're actually taking the recommendations of that beauty report, tick, big tick, lots of ticks. Where I think we need to be careful is where it's saying the government is actually decided to do this unilaterally. So, for instance, the Article 4 direction, absolutely not. That needs to be strengthened, not weakened. The only other part of this that I was actually unsure of is what they're talking about when it comes to chapter 14, which was meeting the challenge of climate change, flooding and coastal change. Obviously, coastal change doesn't affect us, but climate change and flooding, do councillors have any opinion on that? Councillor Crook.
Well, we live by a river. Surely that's got to take some consideration.
Any other councillors? When it comes to something like this, and you know which one I'm thinking of here, I really do think that anything to do with flooding needs to be decided before, as a material planning consideration, prior to consent being given by any planning authority. And I think that feedback needs to go in. Do you agree?
Is that not the case now anyway?
Yeah.
And are they proposing any difference to that?
Councillor Arlett? You're on mute.
I said I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think what we'll have to do, similar to what we did earlier, is if you don't mind, I think we'll ask Jodie just to have a look at that specific question, because we do have, a lot of flooding issues around Henley. So I think we do need to pay particular attention to that. Councillor Eggleton.
What we don't seem to realise as well, in when we're looking at land and we're looking at river and land all over Henley, and it's all right when you're doing, unless you do a major survey on the land, that there's underground springs all over Henley, and old springs where you've got cavities under the ground where sinkholes can appear at any time. And that's over the whole of Henley. There's one just opened up, another spring at Hambledon, which is just burst and put in extra pressure and loads more water. Thames Water there today to try and deal with it. But that's what we don't see, all these underground springs. So when we put in land forward, we don't know what's underneath the land, and sometimes that can hold development up. So what we have to do is take that into consideration. And when you're putting property under these underground springs and open them up, then you're diverting the water somewhere else.
Exactly. Okay, thank you, Councillor Eggleton. I agree with everything you've said there. Councillor Gavishak, did you want to speak? Sorry, I thought I saw your hand go up. Would any other councillor like to speak before I sum up? Yes, Councillor Arlett.
The only item I would speak to is the Article 4. That to me is an absolute backward step. We've seen the problem that happened down at Newtown Industrial Estate, and amazingly enough, I only sent another email out to Adrian Duffield the other day, because myself and Kath went to meet with SODC amazingly 2 years ago, last February. And they've been struggling to sort out between different departments how to do an Article 4. So I've now passed it on to Adrian Duffield to sort out. But that for small, the problem with a lot of these, it's a one size fits all, and there lies your problem. you know, a lot of these towns like Henley and maybe Wallingford, Tame, Didcot, you know, we're all different, but we've all got this one size fits all, and it doesn't fit. It's as simple as that. And this is the sad thing about planning, the way government keep changing things, and they just don't look at it that way. It's a blanket policy that may work somewhere, but it doesn't work everywhere. But I would want to enforce Article 4s on smaller towns like Henley.
Yeah, agreed. Do we all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Listen. There's. I don't think the only other part of this, which I actually confess that I didn't understand, is the National Model Design Code. And so I think what we'll do with that one is we will ask Jodie again to draft something and circulate it to us. And if we've got any additions, queries, we will make sure that they're covered by Jodie. Okay, all right, so let's just sum up then. When Jodie gets back from her holiday on Monday, she'll draft a response taking in all of the observations that we've made this evening, and she'll circulate that report before she submits it to the government consultation. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, next we're moving on to the Oxfordshire County Council consultation, the Local Transport and Connectivity Plan 15. Did either Kath or Councillor Gavishak want to speak to this?
Kath first if you want, and then I'll speak. Yep.
Okay. So it's with regard to a statutory document. The county has to update their local transport plan. They've made it a local transport and connectivity plan to refer to things like better broadband. This is just the vision document, and it's got an emphasis on active travel and public and shared transport. It brings together information from previous engagement activity and an evidence base that they've reviewed, and it's just asking for input into their draft vision. David Dickey from the Greener Henley Transport Group has looked through this and suggested the addition of points on market towns, AONBs, pedestrian and cyclist safety, protection of historic buildings, ensuring roads are attractive to cyclists so that you don't come into the town centre and they're full of HGVs, so you wouldn't therefore want to come in. School safety, plus the addition of measures on, say, numbers of electric vehicles, inhalers used by primary school children, roads covered by 20-mile-an-hour limits. I was going to suggest that people could review and feedback, and Jodie could submit a response on behalf of the Town Council next week. Or I think there are only about 13 questions. I don't think it would take that long if councillors wanted to go through and complete their own return on this.
Councillor Gavishak.
Yes, I think this is good. We're on the cusp of a change that we've absolutely hammered bus services, for years, bus services have been hammered, and we've fortunately protected our bus service, the local bus services going forward. And I think there is an opportunity because of COVID, because of active travel, and because of a slight relaxation in the planning laws that allow for cycleways to be put in a fast-track manner. The idea about connectivity, yes, Kath says, is about broadband, but it's also about connecting settlements and people together. So people that don't own cars in moving about the county and moving about within towns as well. So I think this is a great opportunity, and I have read through this document once. I have to read through it again to actually make the comments. I've read David Dickey's comments as well. I received them a couple of days ago, but I would urge councillors to have a look at this document, chip some comments into Jodie, because I think we've got a real chance that we could actually change the way people connect around South Oxfordshire and the county of Oxfordshire. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillors like to speak to this? Yes, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, I welcome the consultation. If we could get some of the bike tracks, as it were, or some of the connectivity stuff that I see elsewhere in the county, then it's all a good thing. So I'm pleased that Oxfordshire County Council are doing it. I was contacted today actually by a guy called Carl Williams, who mentioned e-scooters and what were the council doing on that. And I said, well, you know, by all means, put a paper together in the course of the next month and bring forward a plan if you think it's a good idea. I don't know what the council will think of e-scooters. I know particularly our streets are a bit tight and our pavements are certainly narrow, so perhaps they wouldn't work so well as they perhaps would work in Aylesbury. But I welcome what the county council is doing, and if we can build back better and build back greener, then I'm sure the new administration going forward will do exactly that.
Any other comments, councillors? No, the only comment that I would make is that they haven't made it clear what they can achieve by 2030. You know, I thought 2030 was up there with the, you know, with the right date. But like you say, at least it's a start. I'm going to take Kath's suggestion to you all and just say, you know, do read the document, do answer it yourself if you have time. But what we will have Jodie do next week at some point before the deadline is to submit that response from Henley Town Council, largely to say that it's welcomed and making sure that our market town of Henley-on-Thames is represented fully. Okay, thank you for that. So let's move on to the next item, which is 16, tree preservation order. To consider making a request to SODC for a tree preservation order at 80 St Andrews Road. Kath, do you want to speak to this, or would you like me to?
You can speak to this one.
Okay, so this is part of the main the St Mark's Road conservation area, and the conservation area, as you know, has lots of beautiful trees lining its streets, but there are also lots of trees that form part of the conservation area that actually are inside people's properties. And Kath and I did actually have a look at the SODC TPO map, and the house opposite this one has actually got its trees, has a TPO order on all of its trees inside on its land. So what we're doing now is to just, what we're proposing to do is actually just put a tree preservation order on this adjacent property. It's just additional protection for that main conservation, for that St Mark's Road conservation area. Councillor Eggleton, you had your hand up.
I don't know whether, when I went up St Andrews Road, I don't know whether it's St Andrews or St Mark's. I know there was someone taking a tree down today, or because there was big logs in the tree things, but I don't know which garden that was or which road it was. It was either St Mark's or St Andrews.
I think I know the answer to that one. It's not been taken down. It was just some tree work that was happening on St Andrews Road.
Oh, okay.
It's not been taken down. It's just been coppiced, I think is what they call it.
I just see some massive logs in the back, and I assume
it was massive. It was a big tree. They've got some big trees around here. Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, it's easier to do these all at once. So can I just suggest that Kath takes a look at the whole street, see if there's any others that need to be added to the list. It's just when they do these TPOs, it's just easier to do them all at the same time. So I personally think the trees in St Andrews, St Mark's look lovely. So we should be protecting them as much as we can.
Kath, how do you feel about that? We've got quite a lot of work on at the moment.
She loves it.
Yeah, I don't think Jodie and I have got the capacity to, and you know, we're not tree experts ourselves. There is some level of protection because it's conservation area already. This would just be an additional layer, and I think you do need to give reasons why particularly you want certain trees to have TPOs on them.
Councillor Eggleton.
Yeah, well, I think all the lime trees up there were planted in many, well, when the houses were built.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
the avenue of lime trees, and I think that I noticed as they've come, some of them have been diseased and they've fallen out. Some of them don't get replaced, But then when they do get replaced, they get replaced with a different type of tree. I don't know why they don't put lime trees back in when they when their lime trees are already there. Is there a reason for that?
Councillor Gavashak, I don't know if you know the reason for that.
No.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well, Councillor Eggleton. I don't know why they don't. They've been actually tarmacking in the little bits up and down the road. They, you know, when a tree is actually, when we had a baby tree around the corner and someone knocked it and, you know, kind of hanging. So they just came and took it out and stuck a load of tarmac in it, which is a shame, isn't it?
I think all these trees need, the ones that have come out and they've been in there for many, many years. I can't see why they can't put another tree, another like for like tree back in that thing to keep that avenue of trees all the way through.
Do you know, I might actually look into that.
Yeah, let's do this one.
Let's do this one. Let's just do this one.
I propose we do this one, but also look at the gaps that are sitting there and put a maintenance plan together so the trees that have come out or been tarmacked ad hoc can be put back in proper way.
Councillor Arlott.
Yeah, if Councillor Hamilton would have come to the Britain in Blue meeting, that's what we're proposing to do.
Okay, so that's already in hand then. Okay, so let's, should we go back to the original one then, which is just for this particular part of, it does have a large number of horse chestnut trees in it. So I'm proposing that we do apply for a tree preservation order on these particular trees. Is that seconded? Councillor Eggleton, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, all those in favour? Okay, that's carried, thank you. But yeah, we will look into all of those infills that have been infilled with tarmac instead of trees. Okay, so let's have a look at item number 17, which is the progress report for applications called in on page 39. I think I've got some updates for you. Page 39. I believe 11 Thameside is coming up tomorrow evening.
Right.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah. And also this Farm Caravan Park, that's been withdrawn. We've got that written down. So that's on the next report. That will be not on there. As 18 St Andrews Road, that will not be on there as well. The dental practice. Now, we've actually got a query open with SODC on this one because they're minded to grant approval. But we've just gone back to them to say, you know, what do you propose to do about the parking? So we'll update you at the next meeting. We've just spoken, you know, so Henley Tennis Club will be coming up next week. Sorry, at the next meeting. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the last item on the agenda, agenda item 18, which is the progress reports. There's nothing more to report on what we have on there, but I did speak to Kath earlier today, and what we thought we should do was, just as an aid memoir really, was to add the training that is required for planning officers and for councillors on the climate emergency initiatives that have come out of the adopted local plan. Okay, so we'll keep you updated on that one. All right, I think that's it.
I just asked,
Yes.
Can I ask that Bal Mahar is added to this progress report? And just note, just thinking about this, the address to send stuff through is Bristol. Can we make sure that the meeting happens in the town hall or at Didcot? Schlepping everyone to Bristol would be a little bit of an odd thing. It's up to the inspector where he has the meeting, but I just wonder whether it can be added to the progress report, so we keep an eye on it.
What you mean? Not the last progress report. You mean the applications called in one?
No, well, just you can put it on this progress report actually, because it'll be upcoming at the next meeting, won't it? It's just, the point is that I
just to
noticed
keep you all
the address
informed.
is Bristol, and we don't want a meeting in Bristol. It should be in Henley or Didcot.
I'm not. Councillor Arlott will inform us. Is that? Can we actually make that request?
I'm surprised Councillor Hamilton has made that comment. the office for the inspector. The office for the inspector is in Bristol, but local hearings are normally local, wherever they can hold one local. They don't go to Bristol for the hearing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hamilton, did you want to come back?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get as close to Henley as possible. That was the point I was making, but Councillor are obviously different. Let's move on.
Councillor Gavishak, did you want to say
Well,
something?
it's just it will be as close to Henley as possibly they can. The Shiplake one happened in Nettlebed, if Councillor Hamilton bothered to turn up and spoke against that. And the Henley ones happened in Henley, and others will happen fairly close. But we have no say as to where it will happen, but it will be fairly local. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. It's been a really full agenda, and that's been 2 hours. Okay, thank you so much for attending and for your comments and your time, your observations. Okay.